This is our last day on the Natchez Trace. We take two off-road adventures and enjoy the relaxation and history the Natchez Trace encompasses. We start out today where we spent the night at Colbert's Ferry on the Tennessee River. Crossing the river, we find ourselves just enjoying a brief sampling of the trace before our first stop. If you did not watch the other days, I will link above and at the end. On minor stops, we let you, the viewer, pause and read the information. If you wish on more scenic and informative sites, we will give a little more information. Throughout our 4 days, we stopped at every pullout on the trace to give you a complete experience. We will also post a highlight video of the trace. The Natchez Trace is picture perfect to have a picnic. Cypress Creek is one of the nicer and more scenic ones to enjoy. The Natchez Trace roadway is operated by the National Park System, but the land on either side may be privately owned. Here we see some cows grazing. Glen Rock Branch is another notable picnic area. This is the first area where vehicles can actually go on the trace. Though it says no RVs, the Tiger is similar to a crew cab pickup, but with a 10-foot bed and about a 12-foot height. So we entered at our own risk and it was not a problem. A Class A, I would say no, and anything taller than 12 feet would also be a no. So as not to have the drive wear thin, let's speed things up. A still shot of the trace and a stream we encountered on the way. This is the one spot we had to stop and check to make sure we would clear the bridge. The Steele's Iron Works is another very large area that has a stream and would be a perfect place to spend an afternoon. While the entire Natchez Trace is historic, the gravesite of Meriwether Lewis has to be one of the most historic. The Grinder House is where Meriwether Lewis met his maker. Some say suicide, others say murder. Lewis has a gunshot in his chest and his head. I tend to believe from the research I did is that Meriwether Lewis was shot by Mr. Grinder over some overdue bills, but there has never been a definitive answer. Taking a walk through history, I sure hope I can find my way back to civilization. The Meriwether Lewis grave has a pillar that is sawed off, signifying a life cut short. Places to stop and hike and picnic are plentiful on the trace. Fall Hollow has a nice stream to relax by. We were eager to explore the Devil's Backbone State Natural Area, but it was closed. As referenced, the Natchez Trace, because of the difficulty traversing its length, was given that nickname, the Devil's Backbone. The trace is in need of some TLC. Here, we see a fallen sign just propped up against its rotted out remains. The old tobacco farm is one of a few actual buildings one can see along the trace. Inside are actual tobacco leaves and the smell of tobacco. It was a very important crop of the time and one of the crops that helped grow America. Here at the tobacco farm is the second entrance where vehicles can drive on the old trace. Again, large RVs are prohibited. If you look at the lower left-hand corner, you can see the time and speed that we went through this 2-mile section of the Natchez Trace. Jackson Falls was one of the few places where we encountered other folks. This has one of the larger parking areas but no dedicated RV parking. However, one can park horizontal against the curb providing there is room. As usual, the Tiger attracts a lot of interest, and we were happy to give a quick overview. One of the few remaining buildings associated with the old Natchez Trace is the house of ferry operator John Gordon. In the early 1800s, Gordon made an agreement with the Chickasaw chief George Colbert to operate a trading post and ferry on the Duck River. Military expeditions with General Andrew Jackson kept him away from home much of the time. His wife Dorothea supervised construction of the present house in 1817 to 1818. John Gordon died shortly after it was completed, but Mrs. Gordon lived here until her death in 1859. This high-tension wire view is Water Valley Overlook. This monument memorializes War of 1812 soldiers buried along the old Natchez Trace, and it honors the service of all brave volunteers who marched on the Natchez Trace during the War of 1812 to help establish American independence. Birdsong Hollow is the last stop on the Natchez Trace going north. Most visitors stop and walk to the top of the bridge to enjoy the scenic view from this height, but in reality the bridge is known for its double arches, which received the Presidential Award for Design Excellence in 1995 for its innovative design that rises 155 feet above the valley. The bridge is 1,648 feet long and crosses Tennessee Highway 96. Back traveling the trace to the end, it was most enjoyable and highly recommended, and we would like to thank our son who recommended this drive to us. We expected some sort of thanks for traveling the trace or end of the trace sign, but no, just ends. We enjoyed having you along with us on our drive down the Natchez Trace. Days 1, 2, and 3 are listed below and at the end. Thanks for watching.